Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Danica, and today we're going to be discussing Seeking Sister Wife. So, before we do, just going to be reiterating the announcement again. The full announcement is on the Love and Translation episode that released on March 28th. And the full announcement, if you don't want to listen to the announcement, just in, the first 13 minutes of the episode, is also on Facebook. I am unable to get it anywhere else, but for Seeking Sister Wife only, due to me having surgery this week, at least that's the plan, there won't be any coverage of going on, any recapping, any podcasts from April 1st to April 29th. I'll be back. The week of April 29th, I'll be back. That is the plan, except for one bonus episode that you will get from Next Take Podcast. But for Seeking Sister Wife, I will not be going back and recapping any of the shows between this time unless the show is close to ending. Then I might go back and do a few episodes or whatever in one episode, but I don't think it'll be ending yet. We're only on like episode 3 or 4, so chances are there won't be any coverage of any of the shows between those times. So that's the deal. So that's it for the announcement. I do have hot goss, but I'm actually going to save the hot goss because it is Seeking Sister Wife related, and I'm going to save it for when we talk about that family. Or I have 2 different ones. So I'll wait and talk about it when we talk about that particular family. That's what I'm going to do. So let's jump into the reason that we are here. Seeking Sister Wife Season 5, Episode 4. Seeking the Truth. So first we have the Davis family. And we kind of just, see Nick going after Dannielle after she ran inside. She said she's all right. She's good. So they go back outside and they have a little chat. And Jen asks, what about the dating is kind of the concern for you? And Dannielle kind of says, talking about it, I guess in general, can be challenging for her. And she's still kind of figuring herself out. You don't have to say you're 24. You don't stop figuring yourself out in your 20s, So potentially adding another person to the dynamic is gonna freak her out for sure. So April says she can understand the insecurity. Obviously there were insecurities between herself and it came to April. But she's like, I love you. You are my wife just as much as Jennifer is. And I'm like, okay, wait, what? I know they're legally married, okay? And I know they're sister wives. Yes. But it's just how she said it. I'm like, what? It was just a weird way to say what I think she was saying, I think. But anyways. Nick is like, it's okay. It's okay. And did anyone else notice and how uncomfortable it's actually made me watching this? When Dannielle is kind of talking about how she's feeling in this moment about the dating, Nick is just all over her, touching her. It felt smothering. And I'm not even the one he's doing it to. But it just felt smothering, and that he's not giving her space to express herself in this moment. I understand him comforting her. I get it. But at the same time, I'm just but she also needs her space to kind of just let her speak without you literally on top of her. Like, it bothered me. Not sure if it bothered anybody else, but it definitely bothered me. And I was like, why is he doing this? Like, stop it. But anyways, Danielle says, you guys are, my first real relationship. And of course, that she's had like other types of relationships, but nothing like serious like this. And I'm just like, okay, so wait, again, I have to constantly remind myself she's 24, but I'm just like, this is your first real relationship and you chose this dynamic to be in. Like, I feel like you should have your first real relationship in whatever monogamy might mean, especially when you're in your late teens, early 20s. You should experience that first before you jump into having a husband and then his two wives and then his kids. So, whoa. Yeah, so she kind of just says like, expanding the marriage scares her. But she says, I have to be patient with myself. She apologizes for her emotions getting to her. And you said, I don't have to do this alone. I think she's kind of telling herself. And no, she doesn't have to do this alone, but I think she clearly felt she was on an island because everyone else wants to expand and she doesn't. And she's clearly expressing it in some way, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, but she's trying to, and no one's listening to her. So yeah, I don't know. But then again, I don't know if she's actually really expressed her real, true feelings as to why she doesn't want to expand. Like, I don't know. But I guess based on how April and Jen are kind of talking to her about like kind of not understanding why she dipped in the way she did, I guess she maybe didn't. I don't know, but anyways, maybe she didn't want to feel like she should be rocking the boat, and that's also like, I don't know. But anyway, she says in the moment that being on her own, even if it was for a few days, was horrible. She said she hated it. And she said this is where she wants to be with Nick and the wives. And, back to the little barbecue thing. Nick says they would never allow just anyone into their family or allow anyone to diminish what they already have. Like, he wouldn't allow that. And you know what? I believe him. I believe him because somehow, some way, the dynamic seems to really work with the three wives he does have. And that's partly on him. And that is partly on, at the time, Jen and April. So I kind of believe him, crazily enough. But anyways, so in the next scene, we see Nick and Dannielle are going to be going out to dinner alone to talk. And we do find out here from Nick that Dannielle still has the lease on the apartment. Now, on the one hand, I'm not surprised that she still has the lease on the apartment because I'm going to assume she's not month to month. She probably signed a year lease. And for her to break that lease in less than a month, probably signing the lease, isn't going to look good. You know what I mean? So on the one hand, I don't understand it. On the other hand, when you do kind of hear, oh, she still has the lease on the apartment, I do understand from Nick's perspective that she could leave at any time and she has an scapegoat in order to do so. So I understand both sides of it, but legally speaking, she may not be able to break it right now. And then on the other hand, too, is she paying for this rent and not living in the apartment? Because that's the other part of it that I'm thinking, unless she can sublease it. But I mean, that might be the only thing she can do is the police. Oh, geez. Anyway, um, so he tells her, I understand you're not going to move, um, you're not going to move through this in like the same way like April or Jen are going to, because they've done this. April is a pro. Jen did this with you, and they're pros. They got this. But you're not going to necessarily move in the same way because you've not been in those shoes yet to be no longer the newest wife or the newest wife now searching for someone else. Like, you haven't experienced that. So he understands that. And Dannielle says, just being the new wife can be very different. Could have worked before in, the way things were or are or whatever, but maybe they won't work the same way now or later. And he tells her, no one can replace you. And, no one's going to come in and replace you. That's not how this works. And he also tells her that he loves her. So he's trying to validate her in this moment too. And he asks, what are your expectations with growing? Like, what do you expect? What do I need to give you? What do you need, to feel secure in us growing? And she says to him, okay, well, if I'm not feeling it with whoever may come in, she basically just wants to be able to feel like she can express those feelings and say, it's a no for me, dog. And she says, even if it's a yes for you and April and Jen, I still need to be able to, but if it's a no for me, I need to be able to be comfortable with the fact that I'm going to be heard and I'm going to be respected and that you're going to move accordingly. I just need to have that security. And I don't think that's a horrible thing to ask. I think that's a perfect thing to ask for. If she needs to feel comfortable in her home. And if she isn't comfortable in her home with this particular person, even if she's the single one out, it needs to be, in and out, like, it needs to be off one or just none, that's what I think. And I think he's okay with that, although I don't remember him actually confirming he was okay with this. But he does say, since we're kind of talking about it, I think you might need to have a conversation with April. He mentions that her leaving really did affect April in maybe a different way than it did Jennifer. So he kind of maybe says, maybe you need to talk to April too. Just, deal with the elephant in the room of you leaving. So, yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes. Of course, I won't be covering it, but we'll at least talk about the coming up on so you guys can get maybe some idea as to how I'll feel. But anyway, that is it for the Davises. Let's move on to the Sherwoods. So Ashley has a date with another girl named Sarah. So they met on social media. Ashley says, it seems like they have a lot in common. One of the things they kind of connect on is crab in Maryland. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, they've connected on that. And Sarah asked, how her appointment went. Like, I guess Ashley had an appointment for the baby. Baby's good. Baby's great. But that's really sweet of her to kind of, ask how the appointment went. But Sarah says, typically she tends to date men more, but she is also into both women and men, so there's not really an issue there. But we're gonna get a little more information as to what she's into. But she says, her being pregnant is definitely new and different. Nothing she's experienced before. But doesn't think that she has an issue or she's uncomfortable with it. It's just new. But then Sarah kind of, takes something out of Ashley's hair, and they really have this comfort. And I'll talk about kind of what I feel with this connection, but in comparison to Grace. But Sarah says that, she is open with relationships. She actually has dated couples before. So this would be a different dynamic, even though they're a couple. It's not for Shane. It's just, which I have some thoughts and I have some feelings, because I feel like even though we're being sold this kind of seeking for Ashley instead of Shane, which is fine, I don't have an issue with that, I still think there's more to this dynamic than just it's for Ashley. But I could be totally wrong. But anyway, Sarah says that she believes that one of the sexiest things about people is just being kind. It's just being kind, She elaborates more, but I'm just kind of giving you the small version. Actually, Ashley explains that she, is kind of getting lost in hearing this, and so they kind of jump into talking about where the relationship could potentially go and whether or not she's open to meeting Shane right away. And she does say yes, that she is used to that. She's like, I've met couples together before, because she's dated couples before. So that's kind of no skin off her back, really. And she's like, that's great, it's perfect. It's kind of, she kind of compares with Grace and kind of says the fact that I felt like pulling teeth to have Grace be accepting of this lifestyle and be accepting of meeting Shane was so difficult, and Sarah's all in. And even the fact that Ashley seems to be physically and potentially sexually attracted to Sarah is also very different, because she admitted she wasn't with Grace. So definitely seeing a huge difference here with Sarah. But the date's done now. They're gonna walk and go their separate ways at this point. But they do hope to see each other. They're kind of leaving it up in the air with a second date. We do get a little bit more context with that. But Ashley does, like I said, feel this, the sexual attraction, and they do hug, and then Ashley asks her, "Can I kiss you?" Great, because I was actually going to kiss you anyway, so she didn't. I mean, I think Sarah was okay, but she didn't really give her the opportunity to say yes or no. I feel like if she said no, she still would have kissed her, but it was an interesting thing. But anyways, so in the next scene, we see Ashley is home now with Shane out with the dogs, and she's happy. She's smiling, which feels so different than when we saw her with Grace. And Shane is like, that's great, because I've never seen that from her. And Ashley says, she's open to meeting you right away. He's thrilled. And then Ashley tells him, then we kissed. And he's like, wait, you did? He's like, he's kind of shocked by it, but I think he's shocked by it, but in comparison with Grace, because I don't think we didn't see the beginning stages of Ashley and Grace, but we are led to believe that the physical aspects of the relationship with Ashley and Grace didn't really progress very quickly. But Shane is all about it. He said, listen, if you feel it, you feel it. If it's there, it's there. So, if it's there, then go for it. And it's fine, So she also says, she's open on all kinds of different relationships. And Shane does ask, okay, so is there going to be a second date? And, she kind of explains that there is an agreement for a second date once Sarah comes back from Florida. She's supposed to be visiting her family. So we'll see. We'll see if she actually shows up for a second date. But that is it for the Sherwoods. Let's move on to the Ryans, but before we do move on to the Ryans, I do have that piece of hot goss for you that is related to the Ryans. So, as we know, during the intros with the Ryans, which would have been just, I guess, actually last week or the week before, when Becky kind of mentions, her dad was a pastor at a church where polygamy was accepted, and she kind of makes a comment of growing up in a polygamous household, to me was never a negative. Well, the statement is quite shocking, considering Becky's dad, which is actually her stepdad, and we'll get to it, was Tony Alamo, which is definitely a name I've heard. And he was a cult leader who married multiple underage girls as young as 8 fucking years old. I should put a trigger warning at the beginning of this. Trigger warning, y'all. Stop listening now if this is sensitive to you. Tony Alamo, he was actually born Bernie Lazar Hoffman, was sentenced to 175 years in prison back in 2009 after being found guilty of transporting 5 girls across the state lines for sex. So, we're kind of going back and forth between what Becky's told us on the show versus what reality kind of is. So one of the things that's kind of brought up is when she kind of says, being in high school and being married was actually kind of normal where I was. Now, hearing this in the context of what I just mentioned and what her life was, it's pretty fucking sick, actually. And we actually find out, too, that the Ryan is not their last name. Ryan is actually Justin's middle name. His last name is Cunneen, I believe is how you say it. Cunneen. Cunneen. So she kind of goes on to say in the intro again that they weren't the first teens to get married young. Our church believed in polygamy as an option. My dad was the pastor of the church and he studied the Bible a lot. Yikes. He got otherwise as he was finding all of the scriptures that prove that it is okay to do. Yeah. So Becky made the statement about there being nothing negative about her upbringing, but under the circumstances, yeah, there's some issues here. So let's kind of talk about now, like the connection, Becky's connection to Tony Alamo. We're going to get into that now. So let's go past all of this and let's go to there. So Becky was born in October of 1981 and would have been either 7 or 8 years old at the time of her mother marrying Tony Alamo. Becky's biological dad, which is, his name is David Kaproof. I'm sorry if I'm saying the name wrong. He was actually a member of the Alamo Christian Foundation, and he was married to Sharon from 1980 to 1988, at least in the legal sense. Because I'm not sure where this changes, but the couple moved into a Dyer, Arkansas home, which was actually owned by the foundation in 1988. Things went south quickly for David after that, though. And again, that's not even surprising. This is how cult leaders kind of run things. And again, I've heard quite a bit because, again, Tony Alamo is a name I've heard before. But this happens a lot in a lot of different cults where they decide, oh, I want that woman, but she's married to somebody else. And they'll kick the man out because they're no longer needed. And this is basically what happens in this case. So there was an article that was in the newspaper called Southwest Times Record, where the headline read, "Ex-Foundation member is bitter," and this was Becky's biological father. Now, I'm not going to read the entire newsletter. I do have a pretty big portion of it though, so I will post that to our social media so you can take a read if you like. But, well, so during her testimony, her mother's testimony during Tony Alamo's trial, Sharon, which is her mother, revealed that she was aware of the young girls living in the house. However, she testified that she was unaware of the marriages or any sexual interactions between them and Tony. I don't believe that. I just don't. So that's, but let me actually go back a little bit because I'm kind of going ahead here and I didn't mean to, but let me go back a little bit. So basically what I said happened, that we've seen many times in different cult situations, is exactly what happened. He got kicked out and his wife and his daughter, Becky, were left behind, where Becky would be raised by Tony Alamo and anyone else, and it was wives, and her mother was one of his wives. So let's go back. So there was a letter to the editor of the Southwest Times Record published in October of 2008 and written by Mark Kineen, and we'll get to that in a minute, who Mark Kineen is. The letter claimed that Satan was behind the allegations being made against Tony Alamo at the time. Tony Alamo News, which is fucking gross, shared the letter to the editor and added this information, quote, Mark Kineen claims he is not a member of Alamo's cults, but fails to mention that he was a member for over 35 years and currently is still a sympathizer. He also neglected to mention that his son, Justin Kineen, sound familiar? Married Tony Alamo's stepdaughter, Becky Caproof Alamo, Sharon's daughter, when she was 15, not 16. And they now have many children, 6. So, Mark Kineen is the father of Justin Kineen. And Mark Kineen was a member of this cult, which probably also included Justin and whoever else that was in his family. Yeah, this is so fucking deep and so fucking terrifying. Let's continue. As far as the discrepancy in regards to Becky's age when she was married, which is a year, but doesn't make it any better, the article with her dad states she was born in October of 81. Based on their Facebook post, Becky and Justin were married in April of 97. That would mean that she was 16 when she got married. As she stated on the show, so not 15. It's also pointed out that Becky and Justin are the first couple to be featured on Seeking Sister Wife who are going by a fake last name. I think that was on purpose. Justin's middle name, as I mentioned before, is Ryan. So it is assumed that they went by Ryan as the last name for probably the purposes of protecting themselves from the fact that their family is a part of a cult, y'all. Either they're no longer a part of a cult, but yet we hear Justin's father is still a sympathizer, no, quote unquote, not a member anymore. But is he just not a member because the cult leader is in prison for the rest of his life? Or did he leave prior to that? We don't know. So, yikes. I don't know, man. So, again, to reiterate, Becky Ryan is actually Rebecca Kineen, since that is her last name. Born Rebecca Capoof, because Alamo is not her real father. Rebecca's mom is Sharon Capoof, who later changed her name to Sharon Alamo after marrying Tony Alamo in 1989. So if you want to know more about Tony Alamo, if you're interested in learning more about him and his cult, there is a Sundance TV Sundance TV released a 4-part series titled Ministry of Evil, The Twisted Cults of Tony Alamo back in 2019. So you can definitely go and watch that if you'd like. And before we end off the Tony Alamo of it all, I do have one more piece of information that I want to mention. Apparently, Tony Alamo's cults also took on a very similar thing with those freaking leggings. You know, that cult with the leggings. I can't remember the name right now. But in terms, he was kind of doing different types of clothing, and celebrities kind of were drawn to his pieces. And yeah, so not only was he a cult leader, he was also a fashion designer. And he made these type of like airbrushed, bedazzled jean jackets in the 80s that became really popular with celebrities. So one of those things, I have a picture here of Dolly Parton in this very typical 80s looking jean jacket that was created by him. They do go for hundreds of dollars today, apparently. So I don't know if this is something you can still get your hands on, which is, ugh. But anyways, the other thing that I want to mention for anyone who are Michael Jackson fans out there, the jacket that he wears on the cover of his Bad album is a Tony Alamo piece. I'm about fucking done. So, yeah, I have no words. This feels really gross. I mean, it feels very gross because the thing is the fact that Becky still really seems to praise her father and the lifestyle that she lived, even though he was breaking the law, is really gross to me. And the fact that her sales pitch to what's her face, Desiree, makes me feel really just gross as well. I feel like, oh man, I feel like Justin probably handed her his business card with his real name on it, and any smart person, I think, would Google that person, and probably all of this shit came up because of it. And she's probably like, oh, the fuck not. I don't blame her, because we're going to get to that, but she probably said, oh, the fuck no. And now I was kind of wondering with this other girl, Stephanie, that we've heard about, if she's like, wait a minute, these people are part of a cult. Oh, wait a minute, the cult leader was sleeping with children as young as 8. I don't know if I want to do this because, oh, oh, oh my god. Anyway, yeah, there's that. So, if anyone is now sensitive, don't particularly want to hear much because it's no longer fun anymore when you know all of this history. And if I have to know, y'all have to know too. So, if you don't want to know any of this, you don't want to hear them, like, I'm going to continue talking about them just because they haven't done anything necessarily egregious themselves. But if, well, aside from the fact he did marry an underage girl, at 19, but, it's nothing ridiculously egregious. So if you are sensitive to all of this based on what we now know, I am going to start putting timestamps down below with Becky and Justin so you can bypass them if you so choose with this in mind. So that is it for the hot goss. So let's hop into the Ryans. So they are called. So Becky apparently has a preventative healthcare business where she can scan people's like antioxidant levels. And yeah, there's more to it. But I guess if you don't have great results, she gives you pills. And apparently, Justin has bought into this. And I'm like, oh, she has an MLM. Oh, okay. It's a whole fucking, she has an MLM. Okay. And that even makes it even worse when you find out she's a part of a cult. Or was a part of a cult, or maybe still is. I don't know. And I'm just like, yeah, I can't. Anyways, yeah, that's what's happening. So we're gonna meet Desiree now. They're kind of at this like coffee shop question mark with stuffed animals on the table. It's really weird. They're kind of waiting there and waiting there and waiting there, and Desiree isn't showing up. She's not showing up, guys. And they're like, well, it was only 2-on-1, so let's just see, give her some time. But still nothing. And then nothing. And then we kind of hear a ding on his Justin's phone, and Desiree apparently texted, and she said she thinks she's chickening out. I said, girl, you better fucking run. You better fucking run. Do not get involved with these fucking people aboard fucking mission. Okay? Yeah. And, Becky's kind of like, well, I guess we're getting stood up then. And Desiree continues on with the text, and she says, I appreciate the offer and everything. I just have to protect my family in all of this. Interesting words under the circumstances of what I just said. Maybe she means nothing by it, but it is interesting nonetheless. She said, I just can't take that chance. No, you can, because if I was her ex-husband, finding out you're getting involved with cult members or ex-cult members, but I think there's some still connections in there. You are potentially getting involved with cult members of a cult that was ran by a guy who's now serving 175 years in prison for getting involved with underage girls as young as 8 years old. The fuck, you're losing custody. Of course she has to go this way. Come on. Oh, she Googled him. Yeah, she says, I'm sorry again to go back on that, but I hope you do find when you're someone truly interested. So Becky says, okay, so how are you going to reply? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, maybe you could say I completely understand. But he's choosing the route of not replying in this moment. He just kind of says, you ready to go? And she's like, no, I'm not ready to go. Are you not going to reply? Or like, what? No, yeah, he's ready to go. He's ready to fucking go. And we'll get to how ready he's ready to go. Okay. But yeah, they leave. And when they're in the car, he kind of says, it just reminds me of when Stephanie said she feels, this was so gross. So it says she feels like I am coming out as gay in the 1950s. So she's basically trying to compare her, telling her family that she's in a polygamous relationship, to queer people having to come out back in the 1950s. What in the actual fuck are you trying to say with this particular comment? Like, what the fuck? There is no fucking comparison. Yes, you may not be accepted by your family in the sense of they're not going to understand why you want to live this polygamous lifestyle. They may not agree with what you have to say. We don't know where her family can necessarily land. I personally feel the issue is that they're part of a cult of a man who, okay, I'm gonna stop. But like, I'm just like, wait a minute. But you can't compare that to queer people having to potentially try to live freely, even though a lot of them definitely in the 50s couldn't live freely with their sexuality. It's just their life, just living their life queer and, free. They couldn't do that. And she wants to fucking compare the same thing. It's me. Maybe it's me mincing, but to me, I'm just like, that is a really horrific analogy to use when you may be in a polygamous lifestyle with these people, but at least you're straight with a man. And you're still not going to be persecuted in the same way that queer people would be persecuted, especially in the 1950s. It just felt gross and sick to me when he said that. He's repeating what she said, but it just felt really fucking gross. But anyways, so they're home now. And I'm like, okay, so what are we gonna do now? Then the music, y'all, the fucking music. And he's like, let's go chill out. Let's go fuck. So at least he's like, listen, yes, we've been trying to search for this whole thing, but at the end of the day, I still got my wife. I'm still interested in my wife. I still want to fuck my wife, Yeah, you try that on for size, Garrick. See what it's like to actually fuck your wife. Oh, but let's get to that now, because we're done with them. Let's move on to the Merrifields. Here's the next piece of hot goss that I have. This will be very short because I don't have a lot of information and it's not easy for me to find. But from what I'm understanding and what I'm hearing, the rumblings, is that Dannielle either is or was pregnant and now has the baby with Garrick. So the hope of Dannielle potentially waking up and realizing, the fuck am I doing? I need to leave this fucking guy completely out the window because now she's had a baby with him after she said she didn't want no more kids. But anyways, I really feel horrible for her. I really do. I'm also really surprised that he actually has sex with her. I'm actually really surprised because I figure he never sleeps with her. Because he just seems so, appalled by her. But what do I know? Anyways, the Merrifields, y'all. It is the second day in Mexico. And Dannielle tells the producers that she feels kind of overwhelmed. It's definitely scary. She's like, it's not fast, but, it's scary. And of course, we, bring up Roberta again and all this. But anyways, she says, he's going to propose and I'm going to give her, a sister necklace. And she's like, Roberta took all of those things. But, okay, enough about Roberta. I mean, I understand. But Roberta scammed your ass. She scammed you. Anyway. So Nathalia apparently asked to talk to Dannielle alone. And Dannielle gets a sense that maybe she's sensing that maybe Dannielle isn't fully in this right now, that maybe something is kind of holding her back. We'll see, but Nathalia does say in the moment that she wants to ask Dannielle if she really wants to be in this lifestyle or if she's just doing it because he wants it. So when she does ask her this, Dannielle says to her that, she has... Oh, sorry. Nathalia asks, do you have doubts about me or is it just doubts about the lifestyle? And Dannielle says, I think the doubts come in because of Bert. And she's like, it was hard, obviously. And Nathalia does ask, how do you feel about, the closeness between me and Garrick? How does that feel for you? And Dannielle says, it's hard. It's a big decision to make. Can you see yourself in this family? And Nathalia says, that is not a problem for me. I am in love with Garrick. Whoa. But I just need to know this is what you really want. And Dannielle says, I want you to understand we're all going to have to make sacrifices. And then, while they're having this really productive conversation, don't we hear what's going on? And it's fucking Garrick, y'all. Apparently, Nathalia did tell Garrick, fuck off because I want to talk to Dannielle alone without you. And he couldn't even fucking respect that. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, Dannielle tells him she senses that maybe I'm not happy. And he's like, what? What do you mean? Why aren't you happy? The fuck? And Nathalia says, I don't feel comfortable being in a polygamist relationship, knowing you still feel afraid. And Garrett's like, what? You feel afraid? Why do you feel afraid? You didn't tell me you feel afraid. The fuck she did, Garrick. She told you she felt afraid. You fucking... Okay. Garrick is like, you told her you feel afraid? Dannielle says, no, I didn't. Danielle, yes, you did. But don't you worry. Because Nathalia says, no, you told me that you feel afraid because of everything that happened with Bert. And Danielle's like, okay, yeah, I did tell her that. And Garrick's like, why would you tell her that? Like, usually when you have a breakup, you know, it kind of leaves a lasting effect. You know what the fuck? Like, jeez. And Garrick is like, I don't understand. Is that all you said? Like, I just showed up. Like, did you say anything else that I'm gonna have to do fucking damage control on? And he's just like, because you told me you're 100% into this. Like, you said you knew she was my wife. And Dannielle says, I am just trying to express myself, and you know that this woman is never able to express herself with Garrick, with anybody. And here's someone who actually wants to hear how she's feeling and how she seems to give a shit on how she's feeling. And Garrick is just over here being like, the one person who should care the most doesn't give a shit. Because she's just gonna ruin my plans to fuck this young Brazilian woman. Seriously. So fucking gross. But anyway. She says, like, I know Nathalia is not Bert, but, you know, with everything that happened with Bert, which is kind of devastating to her, obviously. It was hard to divorce Garrick, which I can only imagine. I mean, I would have done that shit easy peasy lemon squeezy, but that's just me. But it was hard to divorce him for the purposes of Bert coming here and obviously that not happening. So that was really devastating to her. Nathalia says that she is feeling sad. And then she said that Dannielle is feeling sad, or she's feeling sad, someone's feeling sad. I can't remember. And I think she said Dannielle's feeling sad. And Danielle's like, no, I'm not sad. I'm not sad. I didn't tell you I was sad. And Garrick is like, he's like, I'm torn because, I know it's tough on her, but God, came to me and showed me that I was meant to have 5 wives. So I'm not too happy about, Dannielle and her feelings. Who gives a fucking rat's ass about your fucking vision about having 5 fucking wives, you whore? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just, ugh. I can't. Anyways, let's continue, guys. So, he's like, I'm getting ready to propose soon. Like, I gotta fuck her before we leave Mexico, Dannielle. You're really fucking this up. And Nathalia says, I think the relationship is going to, take more time, for Dannielle, to heal from what happened. And that's okay. Like, she's kind of saying, like, let's just take the time and let her, heal from everything that kind of happened, because that is what fucking normal people do, Garrick. And Garrick says, you know, okay, yeah, it's normal though, to go through a relationship because, no, fear, fear doesn't come from God, it comes from the devil, okay? And, and, if you let fear into your life, you're just gonna lose out on your blessings, God doesn't want that. And you know what Nathalia comes back with? Nathalia says, okay, but you told me that God showed you and wants you to live this lifestyle, but I also don't think God would want Dannielle to be unhappy. Mic fucking drop. How is this 25-year-old woman who's only known y'all for like a few months have a more sympathy and empathy for your fucking wife that you've been married to for like, what, 15 years? And have 2 fucking kids with? Now 3 apparently? Like, what in the actual fuck? Oh yeah, she got them. His DNA is all up in her brain now. Let me tell you. Fuck. Anyway, it's like I just think, there are, certain moments, But then Natalia tells him, "Okay, so can you please fuck off so I can keep talking to Dannielle alone without you? Thanks. Bye." So he leaves, and Natalia asks, like, "Are you just doing this because of Garrick?" And Dannielle has a way to say, "Yes, I don't believe in this, or at least I don't believe in the way he's doing it." And Dannielle does not say that, though. Dannielle says, "Noah, I know God wants this. I was the one who suggested this to him." I don't believe that for a fucking minute. But anyways, because you can't tell me she suggested it, but at the same time, he's having fucking visions of having 5 wives. I'm sorry, I think he brought it to her and she kind of was like, that's a great idea. Because again, he's the man of the home. Okay, they're taking this very traditional sense of things because, I'm the man and you dumb, dumb lady, my DNA's in your brain or some shit. Like, I don't for a second believe that she's the one that suggested this. Wow, he's like, okay. Like, I just don't. I'm sorry, you can't convince me. So yeah, she says, like, it was my idea, blah, blah, blah. And, there were always signs, she says. Yeah, I feel like those signs was Garrick telling her we should have more than one wife. And Dannielle says there is never a good time to start a new relationship, maybe. But, you were meant to be in our family. And Natalia just feels very confused because on the one hand, she's hearing this, but she's on the other hand, all of this information about Bert kind of still being in the back of Danielle's mind is news to her because she thought this was all done and over with. She thought that this wasn't a concern anymore. So the fact that it's still a concern, she's like, what the fuck is happening here? Right? She thought it was in the past. But now Dannielle and Natalia are done the conversation, and we kind of see Dannielle trying to convince Garrick that Natalia is, she's fine, it's great, she's so smart, she's so mature for her age and all of that. It's fine. It's fine. I did damage control. But he says kind of when he heard that Dannielle is scared, he was like, oh, great. That's fucking great. Way to ruin the situation. I hate him so much. Anyways. Dannielle's kind of nervous that she is, you know, that Natalia is picking up on the emotions that Dannielle's feeling, which could potentially affect the proposal. You know what? I hope it does. Anyways. In the next scene, we see, Natalia is kind of upset. And she's like, you told me you weren't on dating apps anymore. And he says, well, I'm not. And she's like, but you are. And he says, I didn't continue to look. but you're still available. And Danielle's kind of getting into this, and she's like, yeah, you still have it. You still have them. And he's like, but what? How? I don't have them. Like, I'm not looking. And she's like, they can still like see you. Um, like they can kind of, I guess, like him or something. And he said, but well, they can't message me, like, you know. And I'm like, yeah, they actually can. He's like, oh yeah, I guess they can. But he's like actually like in the phone, and he's like, I'm a little bit uncomfy right now. Because all I really want to do is ignore the situation and make some food. But I have both of these women just coming after me. Like, what do I do? Um, he says like, you know, they can't message, but they can. We're gonna go do this back and forth. And it's like, well, they can like you. Anyways, and Garrick is like, well, I guess I should just delete the app then, you know, and that solves the problem. And Danielle spirals because she's like, I literally told you this. I asked you to delete this app and you told me you wouldn't do it. And he said, did I say that? Did I do that? Did I say that? I didn't think I did. I didn't think I said that. And she's like, no, but you did. But as soon as Nathalia tells you to do it, you listen to her. But as soon as I told you to do it, you gave me excuses. You know, she's feeling really hurt. And it's like, yeah, but you know, because I figured like we are going to be looking for other wives. And he said, yep, you could just create a new profile. You know, once we were ready to look for more, you just didn't acknowledge the fact that I actually do that before you told me no. But you hear Carrick's like, I know I didn't disagree with you. She's like, nope, you did. And Danielle kind of feels like a huge lack of respect in this moment, which I think is understandable. And like, it doesn't feel good. And he seems so fucking dismissive in this moment. And he's like, well, I'm not doing anything on there. And Danielle's like, so you haven't been searching? You haven't been looking? And he's like, no, I haven't. I don't. And he's like, I get messages that, you know, someone's liked me, but I don't look, you know? And Danielle's like, you didn't look at new people? He's like, no. She's like, well, the lie detector has decided that that is a lie, Maury Povich style. Determined that that is a lie. And she says, like, all of this makes her question where she is at in her relationship with Garrick. But you know what, everybody? Let's make a baby. So there you go. But that is it for Seeking a Sister Wife. So, well, this week on the Salahuddins are back and they are going to be picking up Keisha. Or are they? Because it seems like Keisha may not be coming. Danielle and April, so the Danielle Davis and April are talking about kind of her leaving. The Ryans are apparently going to be doing a sneak attack on Stephanie. And the whole situation with this too is, because I'm probably not going to be able to talk about this too much when the actual show comes out. Apparently Stephanie called them and told them to come, but then called them back again and said, don't come. But they're still deciding to go. And we don't actually see them seeing her. So I'm going to say this right now. This doesn't go good. Because we're never seeing her. So, yeah. Yeah. This is a horrible idea. There are no boundaries. The fuck. Anyways, Garrick, I guess shows his profile to to Danielle and Nathalia, and apparently he has 10 dims, and Natalia's like 10, and the funny thing with this too, I wish I would be able to talk about, but the funny thing with this too is that Dannielle, even though she was on the attack a few minutes ago, defends Garrick and says like, well, he wasn't trying to hurt you. And Nathalia says, Dannielle, he doesn't fucking need you to defend him. Stop making excuses for him. He doesn't need them. I fucking adore Nathalia. Nathalia for the win. I fucking love her. She's amazing. Anyways, that is it for Seeking Sister Wife. And again, just as a reiteration, so I'm not going to be doing any coverage of any shows from April 1st to April 29th. With this particular show, there won't be any coverage of the shows in between that time. Unless the show is somehow ending between now and then really quickly, then, I'm sure I'll talk about some things that happen, but especially if Garrick were to propose or something, I'll probably talk about it, but there won't be any full recaps of the show. But anyways, that is it for Seeking Sister Wife. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.